Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Jay Acharya, the CEO of Aspire Consulting and Training Limited, and this is the Becoming the Leader in You podcast. In every episode, I'll be talking to guests about their leadership stories, both personal and professional, stories of their inspirations, their successes, and of course their challenges and how they overcame them. Before we go any further, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And as well as being on YouTube, you can listen to us on Apple, Amazon, Spotify and all other podcasts. My guest today helps organisations turn equality and inclusion into practical, everyday decisions that make work and also the customer experiences genuinely accessible. She's a neurodiversity consultant, a coach and a trainer, and a qualified workplace needs assessor with a background in psychology. She works specifically with HR leaders and senior managers to navigate complex workplace situations with clarity and confidence. And she's also known for the warm, no fluff sessions that focus on what fairness truly looks like in real workplaces, from communication and hiring through to retention and belonging. So I'd like you to please welcome Tamzin Hall of the Neurodiversity Academy. Tamzin, hi, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for coming on today's podcast.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a bit more about who and what the Neurodiversity Academy is. Tell me a bit more about you, but at the same time, tell me what you mean by no fluff sessions.
Okay, so I feel like in the field of neurodiversity and leadership, sometimes neurodiversity is put in a bit of a drawer because I don't know how to have those conversations, or a little bit, or I don't know if I've got the confidence to have those conversations, or I don't know, I'm not sure we're going to get in trouble if we have those conversations.
Yeah.
So people tend to, I find, steer away from them. And of course, I'm generalizing here. Not everybody does, but a lot of leaders, kind of just steer away from having those conversations. And so I want to make it really accessible, really easy, and give people the confidence and remove the fluff, remove the ambiguity, remove the I'm not quite sure, just ensuring that people can have those conversations. And also in a space with me, whether it's training or coaching, I want people just to talk openly. Don't worry about what you say and how you say it, because if anybody says something in a way that I don't think should be said outside of kind of that safe environment, I will catch it. And I'll make sure we have that conversation. Everybody's aware, the right thing to say, the wrong thing to say, but also the way to say things in a curious way. So that's what I mean by no fluff.
Excellent.
Does that explain that?
It does totally. And I just love the expression, no fluff situations, because I think, when you're doing what you do and working with the different types of people that you're working with as well, I think it makes so much sense to sort of take away all that fluff or all the jargon and just get straight to the point and support and help. But how long's Neurodiversity Academy been operating and running?
Couple of years, so we're not that old actually, and of course but what I've been doing this from day dot. So I've been working with neurodivergent people. I am neurodivergent in L&D and management roles, all of that, and I'm sure we'll come on to it. So I've been doing this from day dot, and the reason that I really wanted to create the Neurodiversity Academy was because I wanted to help leaders and managers to get this stuff right.
Yeah.
Because I was hearing so many people saying, I've left corporate, I've left employment, I've started up on my own. I didn't really want to, but I just didn't work. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. I couldn't show up day to day. My manager didn't get me. And people were almost being forced to leave because they thought there was no other option.
Right.
And so I wanted to create the Neurodiversity Academy to help leaders and organizations and employers to be able to retain the best people, to attract the best people, but to support them in a way that everyone feels heard and understood and valued.
Excellent. So thank you so much for that background. And I think one of the key things about the podcast, it says it on the tin, it's becoming the leader in you. And what I'd like to know is, what does becoming the leader in you actually mean for you?
That's a great question. So I think I've probably been a leader since I was 5 years old, and I was playing shops with my nan. I can
Uh-huh.
remember this vividly, right? I was bossing her about and I was telling her what to do and why we needed to do this. And, I feel like I've been a leader ever since then, ever since I was 5 years old, in different capacities, because
Uh-huh.
to me, being a leader isn't necessarily having a big team of people. I've been there, I've done that. I've had a big
Yeah.
team of people who've reported into me. And I think that's absolutely, I loved every second of that.
Uh-huh.
But I'm also a leader right now, and I've been a leader where I don't have anybody
Hmm.
that relies on me or looks at, kind of, in terms of that leadership capacity. To me, it's about having that voice, having that
Okay.
presence, and empowering people to do the best they can do,
Yeah.
the best they
Okay.
can be.
So you said having that voice and having that presence. So
Mm,
with the people that you work with, you said that you work with so many individuals who are neurodivergent.
yeah.
How do you get that across to them about how they can actually, as well, be and have those leadership traits?
Yes. So empowerment,
Hmm. What does that
it's
look
not
like? What does that sound like
empowerment.
or look like from you?
Mm. So, and I was about to caveat that with, to me, I will empower people. I feel empowered myself,
Uh-huh.
but I totally appreciate that when we have somebody who is, struggling, who is neurodivergent, and they have nothing but challenges, and they feel the world is absolutely against them. They're constantly, every time they open their eyes in the morning, it's an uphill struggle.
Hmm.
For them, empowerment looks very different to empowerment for somebody else. And
Yeah.
so it's helping people to me, unpick what empowerment looks like,
Uh-huh.
what decisions in the moment look like, what we need in any given moment, but to be
Hmm.
able to have that voice and to advocate for either ourselves or other people. And
Uh-huh.
that is so different for every one of us. So
Yeah.
different for every one of us. Does that answer your question?
It does. Just another question off the back of that. You
Yeah.
said it helps them unpick making decisions.
Mm,
So this is me showing my naivety, or however you want to put it. But with individuals who are neurodivergent, how
mm,
does unpicking decisions
okay.
actually work? Because is it a fast response or is it a considered or a thought-provoked response?
Mm. It can be different for every single one of us. So you may have heard the term, if you've met one person with ADHD, you've met one person with ADHD.
Yeah.
So every single neurodivergent person is different.
Hmm.
And so that decision-making process is different for all of us. Now, I have an amazing CEO client who struggles to get out of bed in the morning.
Okay.
So their decision-making process to get from bed to the boardroom is very, very different to when they're in the boardroom.
Sure.
Because when they're board in the boardroom, they can make decisions like that. It's go, go,
Right.
go. We're doing
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
this, this. They can make decisions in an instant. What they struggle with is making the decision of, how do I get out of bed this morning? How do
Right.
I get from here to there?
Yeah.
And and that can be incredibly challenging for somebody that in one capacity, they are firing on all cylinders. They've got people looking up to them, they can make their decisions and they can go, go, go.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're lying in bed struggling to get out, and it is a real uh impossible, it just feels like it's impossible. Some people with neurodivergence can't get out of their house in the morning.
Right.
But when they get into work, they can make the decisions and they can be a different leader. So,
Right.
leading in one capacity in terms of leading my life and leading and being able to get out of the house
Yeah.
is one thing, whereas showing up and being a leader in the boardroom is something different. And that can be incredibly difficult when we're trying to make decisions,
Mhm.
because when we're trying to make decisions from a place of, I don't know how to get out of this house,
Yeah.
can then evoke a huge amount of shame and internal shame,
Yeah.
internal embarrassment, internal, I'm not good enough, internal voices that say, why on earth can I not do this when I can do that?
Mm.
And then that beating themselves up and that internal
Yeah.
critic, and that can really impact that decision making process in
Right.
that moment.
That's really interesting. I mean, you've described it so well, and I like the fact that you've gone from the home life or the personal life into the professional, and being able to maybe switch accordingly.
Mm.
Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that can, and also, as you know, as I'm sure you're on the same page with me, is this, it all blends into one, right? I'm Tamzin at home and I'm
Mm.
Tamzin at work. And if
Yeah.
I'm feeling embarrassed and ashamed and overwhelmed with one element of my life, it's very difficult for it not to
Yeah.
come into and seep into.
Okay. So
And
it's
so
having the two personas. So
yeah.
just hopefully I'm not overstepping the mark here, but you mentioned that you also have neurodiversity.
Diversity, yeah.
How did you first realize that you
Mm.
had it?
Okay, so I was at school in the 80s and 90s,
Uh-huh.
and in the 80s and 90s in the UK and a lot of the world, actually, neurodiversity was not really a thing. And certainly if we look at the neurodiversity timeline in the 80s, we were always the kids who were, never going to amount to anything. We were
Mhm.
disruptive. We were,
Yeah.
I had a chair outside my deputy head's or my head's office that was named Tamzin's chair because I was constantly in trouble. And my reports were the same. If she bothered to try, she would be great, but she's
Mm.
and so I was fortunate enough that my parents were both teachers.
Okay.
Or for some people say fortunate, some people say, but
Yeah. As long as they weren't your teachers, that's
no,
different.
they weren't. And my mum saw a pattern and saw that
Right.
actually Tamsin's working really hard, but the results aren't coming. We're getting
Yeah.
this constant same feedback, and she'd mentioned it for so many years that she thought I was dyslexic, and
Mhm.
nobody was listening. And in the end, when I
Right.
was 15, she took me to get diagnosed privately, and took me to an educational psychologist,
Uh-huh.
and in the early 90s, if you get taken to an educational psychologist, you're pretty bad. It's
Yeah.
quite a bad thing. So I went into this appointment and I was told, yeah, severely dyslexic, but also had very high IQ.
Mm.
So I then navigated through my GCSEs. I then got asked to leave 2 months before my A-level exams
Wow.
because I wasn't going to achieve the grades. And so I went into the workplace as high IQ Tamsin,
Yeah.
not dyslexic Tamsin, and I
Right.
marched for years. And that was incredibly challenging. And
Uh-huh.
and that was, that came with overwhelm, that came with exhaustion, that came with all of those internal negative shame, embarrassment. And then it was only until when I was doing my psychology degree. So I think I said to my husband when I was just late 30s, I think I said to him for the millionth time, I want to do my psychology degree, but I'm
Right.
really, really concerned about putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Tamsin, just do it. I think he just
Mm.
got fed up of me saying, he said, just do it. We will do it.
You needed that
Um,
push.
yeah, yes, yes. And that when I did my psychology degree, it was a degree in social psychology. I was looking at teams and how teams worked, how
Uh-huh.
teams became happy, and how they became,
Okay.
we know that happy teams are high performing teams,
Yeah.
but what makes teams happy? What kind of comes before that? And so I
Mm.
looked at that team dynamics with a view of neurodiversity, and then that just sparked my interest into, okay, what is neurodiversity? What's this
Yeah.
this thing called ADHD? What's
Yeah.
all of these? And of course, through my learning, through my experience, through my learning, through my education, through everything, so I think there's a sprinkle of ADHD in me as well,
Yeah.
because I've got, yeah, I tick that, tick that, tick that. And then when I was doing my workplace needs assessor training a couple of years ago, we were asked to write a dissertation as part of the workplace needs assessor training. I thought, I know dyslexia like back of my hand.
Yeah.
I know ADHD, I know autism. I'm going to choose dyspraxia because I've heard
Okay.
about it, but I'm not quite sure. And as I was doing my studies into dyspraxia, I was like, oh my gosh, this is me to an absolute
Wow.
You know, this is the no spatial awareness, the clumsy, the dropping things, the
Yeah.
spinning things down me all the time, the no lack of motor control, the
Uh-huh.
always falling over.
Wow.
You know, I was like, that is me.
You've got a new label, a proper label,
I
maybe.
know, I know. So I'm diagnosed dyslexic.
Uh-huh.
I'm self-diagnosed dyspraxic, and I'm
Okay.
self-diagnosed. I say a sprinkle of ADHD because yeah, I've got some ADHD traits in there as well.
Hmm.
I want people to know that you don't have to have a diagnosis. It's okay to self-diagnose.
Yeah.
Actually, if we look at the Equality Act in the UK, if we look at the Equality Act, you don't have to have a diagnosis.
That's right.
You do have to have a diagnosis if you want medication, and
Uh-huh.
in education, unfortunately, at the moment, you do need to have a diagnosis to have that support.
Yeah.
But for the majority of us, we do not have to have a diagnosis, and people still don't understand that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I haven't gone down a diagnosis route for my
Right.
dyspraxia and sprinkle of ADHD.
So that's telling me that there's so many people out there whose behaviors may be demonstrated as being disruptive in the
Mhm.
workplace. However, they've not been diagnosed or they haven't identified that there might be a medical reason why they're like that. And I'm assuming this is where your support and help comes in when you're working with the CEOs and the HR teams, etc. Is that, would I be right in saying that?
I'm not a fan of labels
Sure.
because to me, what's important are the challenges that the individual is facing.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for the honesty and the background there as well. And still staying with the becoming the leader in you aspect of things, where do you believe that you may still be failing or falling short of that today?
Mm. So I think there is a part of me that wants to help everybody.
Okay.
I'm just trying to choose my words quite carefully, because I definitely get resistance, okay,
Right.
in some situations with some, yeah, I can have got through. Somebody said to me, Tamzin, yeah, I love what you do. You need to come in, you need to help our company. And I go in and have the initial conversation with somebody, and they take it up to board level or MD level,
Mhm.
and MD goes, no, not here,
Right.
not here. I'm not
Yeah.
paying money on this. And I will back away and I will go, okay, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
And I won't push it.
Right.
And
Okay.
I feel like I'm doing that because to me, that's how I can help them. It's just by
Yeah.
walking away and leaving my card. But actually, if I think about the bigger picture and I think about all these people that I'm trying to help and support in the business, I
Yeah.
need to be more forceful.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I think I'm just slightly missing the mark,
Uh-huh.
where I'm not great at sales. I hate those sales conversations.
Yeah.
I'm not really great at conflict. I can train people on how to be great at conflict,
Yeah.
but me myself, not that keen on it.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, so I'll walk away from it.
Right. You used the word forceful. You said, I don't want to be forceful, but there's a terminology like assertive. So what
Yeah.
traits could you use that could make you more assertive by,
Mm.
by going in and saying, okay, I understand you don't want this. However, what's the impact if we did explore it? How would you see good compared to great? And how would that sort of sit for you?
Get this on their radar.
Right. Yeah.
They need to see it as monetary value.
Yes.
You're going to lose potentially X amount of hundreds of thousands of pounds if you don't get this right.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I think it's that, but
Right. Okay.
I'm more, yeah, I'm not great at that side of things.
Okay,
That's
that's a,
definitely
we can talk about that offline. Actually, we can discuss that
yeah.
offline. But no, I understand what you're saying there because I do work with so many different individuals, and the same approach is sort of how do I push back? How do I push back to them to make them aware that actually what we're offering is an investment to your organization, and what's the cost if you don't do this, but what's the investment if you did?
Mm.
And it's about changing that language so that they see it as a people profit and loss conversation as opposed to a business profit and loss conversation. So that's really important. So yeah, again, I appreciate you being honest there, that there's something that you're saying that you can do. And as consultants, as trainers, as facilitators, we or the roles that we've got into, I can count on my hand literally three people that have influenced me or inspired me to get me to where I am today. So my next question to you is about who or what has most shaped you to be the leader and the person that you are today, and how does that show up in how you work with your team or with your associates, but also with your clients as well?
So I think the one of the most inspirational leaders that I've had is a leader that was absolutely horrendous.
Okay, tell me why.
Because and I think we can all learn so much from those bad managers, right? Because of how they make us feel.
Yeah.
And that is if you're somebody who's reflective and kind of curious
Uh-huh.
and wants to understand, we will take that and we will do the
Absolutely.
absolute opposite with our team. So,
Yeah.
so definitely a bad leader where it's a very micromanaged leader, and of course, as somebody who's neurodivergent, I don't like being micromanaged. I
Mm,
want to have autonomy. I want to have the freedom to be
yeah.
able to go, and I will give you exactly what you need, and I'll provide you that output, and that output will be fabulous.
Yeah.
But don't ask me how I got there, and don't want to see every step of the way because you
Yeah.
won't like what you see, but trust me on the output.
Uh-huh.
And so this one, and obviously I'm not going to go into too many details, but micromanaging,
Uh-huh.
calling people out, being rude to people, open voice, and kind of stealing people's ideas and being like
Yeah.
me, it's all about me, and that and taking that, and actually I use that a lot when I'm working with people who are, they want to be a great leader, they want
Mm,
to be the best leader, but they're really struggling, especially that if they have a diverse team
yeah.
with all different needs, and it can be really easy as a leader if you've got somebody who is neurodivergent, who is struggling,
Mhm.
who is falling behind on things, and you're trying and you're trying and trying and you're not seeing results.
Mhm.
It's very easy to take that personally, as
Yeah.
you
Of
know.
course.
And so I always use that with my clients to say, okay, think about the best leader that you've ever had, and now think about the worst leader
Yeah.
you've ever had, and what have you learned from both of those, and how do we help you to get to where you want to get to?
Yeah.
And I'm sure every leadership coach that's listening to that is going, yes, I use that as well. But isn't that just a great tool and a great
It
process to?
is. And it's funny you say that because whenever I do my leadership trainings or management trainings, I always have the two groups and say, okay, this group talk about the bad leader, the worst leader you've ever encountered, blah, blah, blah. And this one, the good leader. Okay, so tell me why they're good. And then you realize actually the bad leader, the traits that they've got, there's a purpose, there's a reason behind it. It's just your interpretation or perception that makes them a bad leader.
Mm.
But when you look at what drives them, it's actually they've still got KPIs to meet. They've still got to manage X amount of people. They've still got a budget to deal with. And but they can change their behaviors, you know?
And isn't perception such a great thing? Like how I perceive something and how you perceive something,
Yeah,
and that, always helping people to understand that you might see it from one perspective, but the other person's definitely see it from another perspective. And I
exactly.
know in neurodiversity that can be quite challenging
Yeah,
for some people to understand what the other person's thinking.
absolutely.
So yeah, so going back to your question, that's definitely to me an inspirational, someone who's inspired me to not be a bad leader.
Okay,
Um, and I think my clients inspire me every single day because
excellent.
I learn so much from them. And even though I've got all of these, qualifications and all this stuff that I've done and learning, and I constantly, CPD and development
Yeah,
as we do, right, as coaches
of
and
course.
and in the L&D space, I'm still learning every day.
Yeah,
And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I know everything about neurodiversity because I don't.
yeah,
But I learn from my clients, and they inspire me, and they help me to be a better leader in this field and in this
excellent.
space, and to be able to have that voice and advocate for
Yeah.
them. So definitely my clients are inspiration as well.
Talking about the beliefs that you have now, what belief about leadership do you hold that other people would disagree with?
Mm. So I truly believe that everybody has potential,
Mhm.
and everybody, if they are heard, if they are understood, if they have the environment works for them, I believe we can all achieve what we're meant to achieve
Mhm.
and more.
Excellent.
And I I speak to this won't surprise you when I say this, but I have people that call me up and say, Tamzin, can you help me to create a recruitment process that means we never hire somebody who's neurodivergent?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there's reasons behind that, okay? And
Uh-huh.
and I always delve into it. I always say, I'm curious, tell me, where's that coming from? What's happening? And 100% of the time is because they've had a negative experience with
Right.
somebody who is neurodivergent. And
Okay.
that person has cost them money, or that person has caused so many, whatever's happened,
Mm.
there's a reason why. But I truly believe that if we can take those neurodivergent people and we can give them the support that they need, exactly as we all would do with a wheelchair user,
Yeah.
if we can give them what they need to be able to get into work and do their job, they will fly.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that. And I do come across people that disagree with me,
Hmm.
and I do come across people, and of course they've got evidence for their belief because
Yeah.
they've experienced it
Of
and
course.
whatever, and I never invalidate their belief. We
Yeah.
just talk about it, and I try, and obviously in my in my way, I try and help them to see the real benefit of
Yeah.
hiring neurodivergent people.
In in those
So.
situations, would you bring in sort of governance or policies regarding discrimination, etc.?
Of course, yes, of course. And it doesn't always work.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm at this point actually in my business where a lot of what I have, a lot of the business that I have that comes my way is either through referrals or it's
Yeah.
reactive. Okay, so
Right. Okay.
it's a Tamsin, we need to exit this person from the building. They've just told us they're neurodivergent. Can you come in and help? And we can do a
Wow.
workplace needs assessment, and we can cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure that everybody's on the same page
Uh-huh.
and the company is protected if they do want to exit the
Yeah.
person building. What we normally find is we do a workplace needs assessment and we get everything in line and everyone knows exactly what's needed and the individual has all the support they need, and of course they're then flying and
Yeah.
everything's great, and but I get clients come to me that are reactive or they're recommended to
Right.
me. And I'm trying to be a bit more. This is my really bad at sales, right? I'm trying to be a bit more proactive because there's
Okay.
lots of people that I know need my help. I know need to get this right because
Yeah.
if nothing else, we are going to save them money on productivity, on exiting someone from the building,
Yeah.
unnecessary pips, on all of that. So I've been asking people to be very honest with me. So I say to people, I don't want you to be politically correct. I
Uh-huh.
don't want you to tell me
Yeah.
what you think I want to hear. I just want you to be really, really honest
Yeah.
about when I say the words to you, neurodiversity or diversity, equality and inclusion, or equity and inclusion, tell me what comes up.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to then take that and use those words and use that feedback to then think about my content and my
Yeah.
marketing and how I can hit those people and get those people to change their mind with their belief.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic. Joe, again, that's first of all, let me just say kudos to you for doing that. Secondly, I'm so glad you didn't say to me, Jay, what's your thoughts on what neurodiversity is? Because I'd be going, and thinking, okay, what words can I say that are totally incorrect? So, working in the environment that you do work with lots of different people, different levels, different tiers, different individuals, and that can create pressure for you. So, when the pressure is highest for your client or for you with the amount of work that you might be taking on, who do you become as not just a person, but also as a leader?
Yeah. So I thrive this won't come as a surprise to you, but I thrive with lots of work. I'm definitely somebody who I need a lot of work, and I'm happy when I've got lots of things and my to-do list is through the floor. And
Yeah.
some weeks I'm working kind of 80 hours, and that does take its toll. Of course, it does take its
Yeah.
toll. But I'm lucky enough to have a great support network, and we touched in the beginning of people that I can ask to do some work for me, who can take on some work for me, so it
Yeah.
can free up some of the time. I think where where it comes into play, where it's overwhelm, and it isn't healthy, is
Mhm.
where my clients are struggling.
Yeah.
And I take it on as we all do. And I'm suicide first aid trained because
Yeah.
of the conversations that happen, and we know that suicide intent ideation is very high in
Of
neurodivergent
course.
people. And so it's times like that where um I want to help. I want to make it all okay. And there's times in the past where I've had emails from people at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I think to overcome that, I of course took it to supervision, and I talked it through. And I've got a very, very good reflection process. So
Hmm.
if I ever come off a call with a client and I feel like this is going to stay with me, and
Yeah.
this is going to come into my work, my personal life, and this is going to really impact how I'm showing up for my family or how I'm showing up for future clients, I get my reflection log out, and I ask myself some very clear questions, and I reflect on it. And one of them is, what can I now do for this client so that I feel comfortable I've done everything?
Right.
And that might be just sending them a list of, if you're really struggling, here are a list of people that you can
Yeah.
go to, from, places that you can just text and talk via text, or, places that you can pick up the phone and speak to. And if everything is bad, just dial 999 kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I've got that process where I reflect, and then I make sure that I've done everything, picked everything up. Because with all of my to-dos, all of my emails coming in, all of juggling everything that we're juggling,
Yeah.
I've managed to, I can do that. And I think a lot of neurodivergent people can. We're
Mhm.
great at when it's really, really busy. It's that emotional side sometimes that I
Right.
feel
Okay.
like really impacts me. If you ever come out of a meeting or a conversation with somebody and you feel like this is going to play on my mind,
Yeah.
reflect. Do a reflection, have some key questions to really help yourself to be able to, you know, park it per se, to know I've done everything in my power that I can do. I
Uh-huh.
know what I might do differently next time. I know what I've done great this time, and I'm just going to move forward. And
Fantastic.
that is, I would say, one piece of advice that to anyone who's a leader. If you're having tricky conversations, if you're going through things that you'll find yourself waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning for,
Yeah.
that's a really good tool.
But do you know, you just led me into my final question for today's
Okay.
session.
Okay.
You've read my mind. I don't know how you've done that, but what's one honest conversation that you might be avoiding with either yourself or someone else that would move them or move you closer to becoming that leader in you?
Mm.
And when do you think you'll be having it?
Mm. So I think that's a really good question. And a couple of things sprung to mind. I think I'm going to choose this one. So I think it's helping leaders to have the conversation around neurodiversity and
Okay.
inclusion, and to be really honest with themselves about, you've got somebody in front of you who maybe is underperforming. Maybe you're seeing a behavior that is frustrating you, and you're at the point where you're like, I can't continue doing this.
Mm.
And you are feeling like, I just need to go to HR, I need to put them on a performance plan, I need to do all this stuff, we need to make it formal.
Yeah.
I would say, if that you're in that situation, just take a moment and ask yourself, are there any repeating patterns that I'm noticing? Is
Right.
there
Okay.
anything with this individual that I've asked them to do something and they're just not doing it? Because if you have somebody who is, and I'm not saying this is 100% of the time, but if you have somebody who is neurodivergent and they are struggling, or they're underperforming, or there's behaviors like they're turning up late all the time, or they're
Yeah.
not hitting deadlines, or they're lying to you that they've done something and they haven't,
Yeah.
that could be an indication of a pattern that they are struggling and they are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And without labeling, I would say we just need to be a bit more curious than
Okay.
to go down the line of, I'm really frustrated, it's taking up all of my time, I'm going to go down a formal route.
Yeah.
Just be a bit more curious about what's really going on for that individual.
Excellent. I love that terminology, curious. I use it a lot. Ask questions, find out more, try and, without being invasive in any way, but try and find out as much about that individual as possible or that situation as possible, because then you can come in with that proper leader hat or that personable hat on, where you can understand people's behaviors and understand how you can work with those individuals. And it's so what sort of mediums or media can you use that could help a lot of your potential clients and your current clients as well? What do you use currently, or what could you be using to, first of all, engage them if they're new, or
Yeah.
what do you use currently for your current clients?
Yeah, yeah. So there's two parts to that question. So the first part is if a member of staff has come to you and says, I'm ADHD or I'm autistic, and you can have a very different conversation
Hmm.
because you're starting from I know exactly where I know where you're coming from. I know what's going on for you. We can go on this journey together
Yeah.
and let me understand and let me go and do my research and find out a bit more about this. So that's one side of the conversation, and that if you work for a company or if you have this within your company, if you have a neurodiversity policy, or
Hmm.
you have quite a lot of my clients will employ me to write an intranet page
Yeah.
for neurodiversity or set up resource groups or things like that,
Excellent.
and documentation that we can signpost people to. I do. We train neurodiversity champions, so we help people in workplace to be able to signpost and to be able to have those conversations. So that's a very different
Hmm.
conversation to when somebody is struggling and they don't know they're neurodivergent.
Yeah.
You might think maybe a slight trait, or there might be something going on, but we can't call it out. We can't turn around to
Right.
somebody and go, are you ADHD? Are you
Yeah.
dyslexic? We can't do that. And so, but we have to support. And this can
Of
be
course.
quite challenging for leaders to kind of, come to terms with, and I get this quite a lot. I get this bounce back quite a lot. So Tamzin, you're telling me I can't ask if somebody's neurodivergent, but under the Equality Act and legally, I have to support them. And the answer
Mm.
is yes. Well, how do
Yeah.
I do that if I can't ask them and we can't have the open conversation?
Yeah.
And that comes back to my point earlier around the label doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you have somebody in front of you who is behaving differently to how you would expect,
Hmm.
or they're showing challenges that are maybe just different to you, or
Yeah.
something maybe you've never seen before, go into that conversation with, I've noticed that you turn up late for work every day and you're rushing in and you're stressed. Tell me what's going on.
Hmm.
And go into that conversation from I really want to understand. And it can be really difficult for a leader when they have a to-do list and it's through the floor, and maybe they have neurodiversity themselves, they're trying to juggle everything and they
Yeah.
just need this person to do the thing. And so sometimes we can go into that conversation in a bit of unintentionally, we can be quite defensive isn't the word, but we can be quite I can't think of the word, but you've done this wrong, you just need to do it right.
Yeah.
I can't keep having this conversation with you. And when we go into a conversation like that, we're not creating psychological safety. If leaders can go into those conversations without seeing the person in front of them as someone that is a headache and frustrating and
Mm.
not performing, and seeing somebody as, we hired this person for a reason, and there's something that's going on, and there's something we need to do support.
Yeah.
Because once we can support and once we can see past that, everything changes.
Absolutely.
Everything changes.
And without downplaying anything around neurodiversity, when we talk about leaders, it's not just about that trait or about color or anything else at all. It's about the person, and it's about the language and the behaviors that are demonstrated by leaders, so as that they should be able to approach all conversations empathically, or with the right business emotion into it, so as that they don't make that individual feel uncomfortable in any way.
Yeah.
And
And
we could carry on talking for ages, Tamsin, and when I think we could live in a world with rose-tinted glasses,
I would love
and and it would be
to.
fantastic. But we
Yeah.
also understand, if we did, we wouldn't have jobs.
No.
So it's always useful. But I just want to say thank you so much for your time today, Tamzin. And genuinely, you've given a really good insight into who you are, who and what the Neurodiversity Academy is, and what you do. So for anyone that would like to contact you to learn more about what you can do to help them and their organizations, how can they get in touch?
So I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm Tamzin with a Z, Tamzin
Okay.
Hall, and I've got my Insight Discovery dots after my name. So
Okay.
I'm quite easy to find. Or the website is the neurodiversityacademy.com. So because of what I do, sometimes I get called into organizations to say, we know this person is neurodivergent, but they don't know we know,
Right.
or we believe this person's neurodivergent, but we
Yeah.
can't say. So I also have Tamzin Hall coaching, so that if
Mhm.
I, because so that then separates the Neurodiversity Academy
Excellent.
from Tamzin Hall coaching, so that people don't think they're being labelled or put into a
Yeah.
box. That we do have a another option to be able to just help and support in a way that isn't,
Fantastic.
enabling. So
That's
yeah, so
so good to know about that as well. So um, I'll make sure that I put all of your information onto the information below. If people are listening on Apple or on Amazon or on the podcast, I'll put the description into your details into the description as well. But as for today's Become the Leader in You podcast, thank you so much for coming on it today. And for all of you that are watching, thank you so much for watching. And if you're listening as well, again, to everybody, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of those episodes. My final bit is just to say keep growing, keep leading, but most importantly, becoming the leader in you is the most important thing. Thank you. I've been Jay Acharya, and this was my guest, Tamzin Hall. Thank you
thank you
so
very much.
much.